it's very different. But right now, one of the questions from the audience as well that they want to know is, coaches, how many players are recruited each year? Maybe let's start with Coach Tim again. Is there a cap number or is it a rolling number? Yep.
I think it's a function sometimes, Laura, of resources available to you in certain elements, right? So we're historically, over the last 10 to 15 years, a roster size between 18 and 20 athletes. Our roster, or our competition, our roster competition element allows us to compete with 14. It's a fair statement to make when I say that we're generally 3 or 4 athletes per year are graduating, are shifting, moving, transferring into higher degree programs, etc. So trying to balance all of that, I would say that the 3 to 4 athletes are generally on the radar for any particular year.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Right. Coach Andy?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, Coach Manolo.
No, go ahead. No, I was going to say that it just, I think that perfect roster size is between 15 and 16. But in terms of recruitment, I got here in February. The head coach as well got here in January. So I think it just depends on where we are moving forward. But I will say that because we're trying to build something special, I think it's going to take at least a couple of players per class in order to continue to get better and get better quickly. So I think the number would be the same, like between 3 and 4 players per year.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
With me in my college, it actually depends on the social condition of my players, because sometimes just this year, one of my players had to stop playing for me because his parents needed him to go to work for the family. So it's a social and financial issue for how many players I get each year. So it depends. Just like Coach Manolo and Coach Tim said, it's right around 3 to 4, but it depends. Like if half my team, even with the scholarships that we give, even with the allowances that we give, some of my kids come from really poor families where even being in the varsity, going to class, they have to have extra time to go and work for their families. So it's a social situation for me, depending on the year. But more or less, it's the same number as the coaches said.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Along the lines of that as well, Coach Andy, then, for your college, it sounds like, you guys are definitely tailoring things to help your recruits and your current players, So what would you say distinguishes your volleyball program from the other colleges?
Well, definitely not the resources, but it's more of, I think it's connected to what Coach Manolo said. It's like in character building. Like I've had a lot of players that went through my program that not only did not know anything about volleyball, but they came from a bad situation. When you say bad situation, their parents were separated, they were always on the streets playing, and they didn't have the guidance during their younger years. So when I entice them to play for my team, I'm like Mr. Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. I'm their best friend. Yeah, I'm their best friend, but I'm also their drill master. So in training, I'm strict. I want discipline. I want everybody to listen and follow the rules. But outside the court, if that person needs anything from me emotionally or financially or anything, like a person to talk to, I'm always there for these guys. So that's what I think is necessary, that there is a person to guide these players. And I think that is what we do as coaches in my school, because as the coordinator, this is the same message I also say to the other coaches, that after the last whistle, that does not end your relationship to your players. You have to be there for them also when they have a problem, like when there's a death in the family, or if someone gets pregnant, like my girlfriend, one of my players' girlfriend got pregnant and he needs a little support. So those small things go a long way for these kids. And they remember you when they graduate or when they transfer to another school, That's the most important thing I impart to them. So this is the same thing that the school also would want their trainers, their teachers, their coaches, and the higher up from the administration to give to these students that there's a family orientation. And we try to give that orientation as best we can with the finances or the whatever we have as resources.
Yeah, you have, I think, the privilege of having 4 years to really make a big impact on your players, right? I think that applies to all of you guys. So, I think that's something that, as coaches, I think majority of it is passion, but also knowing that you have a chance to really make a difference. So, kudos to you guys. That's something that I know you guys can all relate to. Okay. Coach Monello, what distinguishes your school from other programs?
Well, I think that the diversity and inclusion that we have in our program, without question, in the former school that I was, in Indiana, we had the most diverse and inclusive roster, players from all over the world, which I think that brings the perfect situation because different backgrounds, different experiences, different ideas create a better learning environment. Is it more challenging? Of course it is, because now you, of course, have to be more individual oriented in terms of how you approach everyone. So I think it's a learning experience even for the coaches when you go through something like that. Like, we strongly believe that the more people that you bring from different places, the better of a team you're gonna have long term. Now, of course, like I said, it brings the challenges of you having to adapt to the different type of cultures and customs that everyone is used to. So I think that that's what distinguishes our program the most, and we want to do the same here. We want to bring as many people from different countries as possible and try to get them together into what we believe is a really good transition to play in national teams, in professional leagues after college, or if they just don't want to play anymore, at least they have a strong base where they have been surrounded by so many different coaches that it creates the sensitivity enough for them to understand, and have a world citizenship of what is it to be, in a different place with different people that you're not used to. So I think that, that's something that I'm really looking forward to building here, as we have done in past programs. So, and again, as Rachel experienced as well in her former school.
I think one of my favorite things before was that, pre-game music or locker room music, because we had so many diversity amongst our team. We had, the Europeans, you had the South Americans, so we heard every type of music. So I think that was one really cool thing for an athlete, because you just learn different styles and flavor of everything.
Yeah, for sure.
You know what makes it, you guys were student athletes. You know what's the interesting part? The timeouts, when you have different languages going on at the same time.
Yes.
And then you have different people receiving the message in a different way. And of course, the same way that for me they have an accent, I have an accent for them. So I don't know, I think it's a really good environment to have, but at the same time, something that distinguishes a program that, just like in any organization, the more different people that you have, the greater opportunity you have in that room to get better.
Yeah. Great. And Coach Tim, what distinguishes your program from the other?
I think the distinguishing piece, my description, I love Manola's description of the intent for his particular program, because in ours, we talk often about inclusivity and diversity. That is where I think our horizon is set to expand that circumstance. The uniqueness or distinction is, I think, a little bit more on the homegrown description, because Magnus, as you know, I've been there now. I'm entering my 33rd year with the women's program at the university itself, and so it brings an expectation of this is the reliability and the consistency and the continuity that has sort of transpired over time. There is an expectation when you arrive that that's what you're going to receive in terms of when you look historically, here's what's happened from year to year to year. That in itself is a bit of a distinction, but as I said, sort of in the preamble as well, it's very important to continue to move your feet, to continue to expand and to evolve. I think those are things that, even just being on this call is very exciting for me, because the reach out by our institution, I believe, in the international student capacity is going to get larger. There is an intent to expand. There is an intent to attract. And in order to do that, we have to, like Andy's description, we have to continue to surround our athletes, our students, right, with the right tools to be successful both in the classroom and on the volleyball court in our particular case. And that's an exciting time again. So it takes, there are different components over time that really start to generate enthusiasm and energy, right? So I think that is a bit of a little bit more homegrown with some continuity, kind of gives it a bit of a distinction as well.
Yeah. Well, when you talk about evolution, I think obviously for coaches nowadays, you guys can't go, travel to recruit locally, yet obviously internationally. So I'm sure this type of call, having a video call to reach out to, to share more about your program and to share more about, volleyball at your respective schools. What would you say is key for recruiting for the players in Asia, and how do they get scouted?